I have more water too if you need some.
I'm a Navy man, 1978 through 1984, and was fortunate enough to go overseas and serve in Japan for 3 years. Most of my time was spent on the West Coast and in Japan, and wound up staying in California. Absolutely loved it when I got out, and gradually over time just made it to the central Nebraska through different moves and different business ventures. So,
And your most recent before retirement was being the chef at Hy-Vee, right?
yes, I joined Hy-Vee in Iowa, actually, 2008. I joined Hy-Vee and 2006 and made it to Grand Island in 2008. I went to Sioux City from Iowa to South Sioux City, South Dakota, and then made it to here in the store as a chef, going to different stores to train kitchen staff and open up stores. That was the first year and a half of what I did with Hy-Vee. And then each store that I went to, the store director said, "Can you stay? I mean, if I offer you more money, will you stay?" And so that's how I progressed in Hy-Vee and spent 15 years at the Grand Island Hy-Vee. And during my time at Hy-Vee, I was also doing lots of veterans work and got tremendous support, recognition, and that was basically the foundation of BCV, was at Hy-Vee, talking with the customers, meeting lots of veterans, and doing Veterans Day events for 9 years, and then doing Christmas programs at the VA hospital in Broadwell. And so eventually I decided, I need to stop carrying around all these cash donations people are giving me, and I need to get serious about what I'm going to do. So in 2020, I left the workforce, and 24/7, I mean, it's nonstop. The work is constant. There's always someone in need and work that needs to be done. And, the Grand Island Community Foundation helped me in 2018 to actually get a legal nonprofit started. And then they coax you out the door after a couple of years and say, "Now fly, little bird," And Destiny, the board of Destiny had a meeting and thought this would be a perfect match because there's, several veterans at the church that they see the need, and they're very, very supportive. So we are now an outreach, Veterans Outreach Ministry to Central Nebraska, and we currently recover from St. Paul to Aurora, Hastings to Kearney, and everything in between. When there's a need, people call, and we do the best we can to help not only the veteran but also the family members. And we've had that opportunity and the blessing to be able to help veterans, children, and grandchildren.
What kind of situations do you find these veterans in? Well, just that.
From the worst case scenario, homeless. Okay, they have no home, and winter's coming, and so through our work with the community social organizations, through our work with the police department, and the VA, they have a homeless program at the VA. We're able to come alongside and find out what the need is, if they need help with financially getting into a place, if they need furnishings, if they need food, clothing, anything. We come alongside and we meet that need.
So what would be an example of a worst case scenario?
We just said goodbye to a homeless veteran that I met 4 years ago, and he was walking the streets on his way to a meeting with the homeless representative at the VA, and I could just tell that he was homeless. You see it in people when you've been doing this for enough time, and you really care about people. You could see the need. And we were able to assist financially, get him into a duplex, and furnish the whole thing. And he had a quadruple bypass surgery, so he's really limited on anything he could do. And we stocked his refrigerator and his cupboards, got all appliances, everything was donated and purchased. And just last week, he was approved to go to the Scottsbluff Veterans Home, and he has family in Scottsbluff, a brother and nephews. So seeing the progression over the 4 years, he was really lost when I first met him. And over time, he decided that he would come to fellowship at church with me and to weekly prayer meetings. And 2 years ago, he turned aside and accepted Christ. And just to see now that he no longer has to try to take care of himself because of the mental illness challenges that goes with being homeless for 7 years. Now he is going to be in a veterans home that is a beautiful home in Scottsbluff, and all his medications will be taken care of. I mean, literally, when we moved him out 2 weeks ago, there were spilled medications on the floor and on counters and stuff, and people didn't know what to do with them. But sadly, that's the shape that a lot of our veterans are in, mentally and emotionally. So we just try to come alongside and encourage them. We don't try to change their life. We just want to let them know that we love them and to meet the need, because asking lots of questions and asking them to do this and this and that is just going to cause them to close in again, even more so.
What is it, do you think? Where have we failed them? And I say we as a society, I say we as a government, you know, we have them come into the service and treat them far worse than what they came in.
Yeah.
What's the need? What do we need to change?
I think that probably, I'm guessing 40 to 45 years ago, maybe even 50 years ago, we stopped talking about it, about what's required of a veteran. We stopped sharing what our great uncles and great grandparents and grandparents went through. And basically, kids for at least a generation, maybe two, had no clue that, you know, wars take place, and you don't see it here on your home turf, but believe me, there are people sacrificing their lives so that we can have the freedoms that we do. And I think taking prayer out of schools was a big part of it, the reverence. You know, we are to have reverence for our military as well as for God, because all throughout Scripture, you know, you see that God has raised up armies to defend and keep freedom in the land. And for
So was it Vietnam?
I think after Vietnam, that was the kicker. That's where people just got so disgusted, and they just shut down. And what was that, turn out and tune out and turn off? You know, that whole phase that our country went through. And then we started seeing the corruption at the highest level. You know, we saw what happened with the Watergate scandal, and it snowballed from there. You know, but I do believe a foundational key to this country was taking prayer out of schools. Absolutely.
Do you think that you know, the enthusiasm? I mean, my dad was in World War II. The enthusiasm for joining or the enthusiasm if you got drafted, that enthusiasm was. I don't know if it's non-existent now, but I think that those people that are going into the military are those that are in need.
Yeah.
You know, that need.
For some, it's the last resort.
Yeah.
You know, but I do know some very enthusiastic young kids that I have been encouraging for years and years and years during my time at Hy-Vee. I believe every youth, male or female, should spend at least minimum 2 years in the service. Get away from mom and dad, get away from the purse strings, learn a little bit about discipline and responsibility, and the opportunity to learn a really good skill or to further your education is always there. And it'll just give you time to just figure out who you are, you know? And it's neat to see the young kids that are wanting to go in, and I see that. But again, back to Vietnam, we saw spit on, turned down for jobs, turned down from housing, ashamed to wear the uniform. And that's just a trickle-down effect that people lost the patriotism, but we've seen it come around full circle now. And right now, in the past probably 10 years, we've gotten back to where we need to be to respect our military and to uplift our military and uphold them, because they need it. I mean, a lot of them could get out and go to the private sector and make a lot more money, and some do, and that's great. But there are those that understand the mission and the sacrifice involved. And I'm just grateful. I'm really grateful, which is why I do what I do. I can't do enough. Honestly, I cannot do enough. I wish I could do more. And hopefully through you and the next step that we talked about getting some corporate sponsorships, I could spend more time doing the work than everything else that's involved in maintaining the nonprofit.
Let's talk specifically about the garden. Why the garden?
Well, a lot of the veterans that are sent to me, and that it seems like the last resort is, let's see if Chef can help. Honestly, I had a veteran who was a trucker, and this is like 3 years ago, he was pulled over, and a police officer just talked with him, and are you okay? And he said, well, I'm really having a hard time, officer. He goes, I'm a veteran, I have severe PTSD. The officer gave him my card and said to him, if you think that you need help right this minute, he should call mental health and here in Grand Island, Mid-Plains, and they'll help you immediately. So he did, and they gave him my number. So I think it's really difficult to stay aggressive and angry and upset when you're surrounded by beauty, which is what I'm hoping the time that I'm putting in these past 3.5 years in the Veterans Garden will create an atmosphere of not only beauty, but of peace and serenity and safety, above all safety, that veterans feel where there is no trust anymore in their lives, that through time spent with me, not answering questions, but just being, that the garden will provide a safe haven and a place of trust for them. And from there, over the long haul, we can hopefully get to the root of some issues. But establishing trust is really primary in the work that we do and why the garden is there.
Where do you get your money currently?
What's that?
Where do you get your finances, your financial help?
I do fundraisers all year long. Thank God the newspaper, the radio, and the television totally supports. They get the vision of BCV, and every opportunity they can promote the things that we do, they're there. And I have a whole history of years and years of media coverage that I have in a file, just to show people that, it takes all of us. It's not, people focus on Chef Anthony, and I get it. They need somebody to look to talk to ask questions. But there are so many people involved, which is why I created the words that I used to form Business Coalition for Veterans, that it was going to take more than me. A coalition is lots of people. And ideally, my end goal is that very successful businesses would catch the vision and say, yeah, let's skip everything that's not working. This is obviously working. And let's get behind them.
What are the specifics that I'm going to look at as a business person to give you money?
Well, we provide finances for veterans. We pay bills, housing. We get cars repaired. We buy clothes, appliances, everything along those lines. We help with medical. Building the garden takes a lot of money and labor. So we hire veterans to come out, and we pay veterans. And we have a widows outreach ministry where we have currently 6 widows that we visit on a regular basis. We bring them meals. We invite them out to events. I was hoping we could do an ice cream social this fall. We did one last fall, and we lost one of the widows who was there last fall. But having them out for an ice cream social in the garden was just wonderful. They just laughed and had so much fun. And Elaine was there last year.
Really?
Yeah. So different ways we're partnered with the Grand Generation Center, and we're partnered with Go Big Give. So we do events with Go Big Give to raise money. There's always a need. I mean, constantly a need. I get phone calls, I get texts, and we're not talking like grand amounts of money, but all these little 20, 30, 40, $50 needs, they all add up. And thankful that the generosity of the people that support us is faithful generosity, and they're there. But I need to take it to another level so I could slow down, because really I'm working so hard.
And you two are not in your 30s.
No, 63.
Oh, I'm older than you are.
Yes, you are.
That's horrible. How do I, if I want to give money, how do I do that?
You can go to Business Coalition for Veterans Facebook page, and there's a direct link. Click and donate. You can also, if you want to write a check, tax deductible, we have a tax ID number. P.O. Box 81, Alda, Nebraska 68810. Address it to the Business Coalition for Veterans. You could just address it to Chef Anthony. The people in Alda at the post office know who I am, and they take good care of me and our veterans. So there's online donation. You could send a check, or if you want to donate cash, you can stop by Destiny Church Monday through Friday or on Sundays and see the receptionist, and she'll make sure that any cash donations make it to our bank account.
Does it make sense, Chef, to have a GoFundMe page when you get this thing off the ground?
I utilize GoFundMe for specific needs. Recently we had a Marine veteran killed in a motorcycle accident in June, and through GoFundMe we were able to, in 3 weeks' time, get emergency funds for the family. We raised just under $10,000. So I'm not saying that anything is wrong with GoFundMe, but they do take a percentage. So by donating directly to BCV on the link we have, you're not dealing with that percentage. So, but like I said, as the need arises specifically to keep it separate from the BCV account, we do institute GoFundMe for certain families and needs. And I'm a big believer in GoFundMe. Yeah.
What do you want people to know, as a final thought, what do you want people to know about BCV?
Our mission statement is to care for veterans from all walks of life. And I mean that. It doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter if you just got out of jail. I mean, one of my longtime veterans was out of prison. 15 years he was in prison. And he came out and it was just so hopeless after 4 years. And he tells people that meeting me at Hy-Vee one night on a Friday night in May saved his life, because he was getting ready to go check out. And now I was texting him this morning to come over and work with me today. So it's there. It is there. And I just want to be able to say, yes, I can help you. I had to, at times, the bank account, there wasn't the money. I've had to say, no, I'm sorry. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like turning people away. I invest a lot of my own money, personally, because I can't outgive God. There's no way. So know that it's going to a worthy cause. And if you get on the Facebook page, you could read the comments of people who, even though they're not able to support financially, just by making a statement and making a comment will help other people to say, wow, these guys are legitimate.
Tell me your passion. Where'd your passion come from?
My passion comes from seeing generations of my family serving in the military. My grandfather and my uncle were 40 years each in the Merchant Marines. My grandfather was torpedoed by a German U-boat in the Atlantic. Abandoned ship dove through burning diesel fuel. And I never understood. Every year I would go to spend the summers with my grandparents from like 9 to 17. My grandfather never wore short pants, and we'd be out in 100-degree heat. And I wondered. I said, Mom, why doesn't Grandpa ever wear short pants? She says, I can't tell you now. When Grandpa passes away, I'll let you know. From diving through burning diesel fuel, his legs were melted twigs. Real grotesque. And that's why he never wore shorts. And great uncles, World War II. I know we go back to World War One. A great grandfather on my mother's side was in the Austrian army, fighting against the Nazis. So my dad was Army. My two brothers were Navy. Just we know what it means to serve. You know. And if I can encourage, like I say, I encourage all these youth to do it. It's part of discipleship per se. If you want to enjoy the benefits of America and all that America has to offer, somebody's got to put in the time.
And that's you.
And the veterans and those that join up, and whether it's a 2-year stint or if it's a career, it all adds up. You know, we need bodies on the line, and if people don't volunteer, we hope we never go back to the draft. But I have faith in America. I do, which is why I do what I do.
We've talked for over 20 minutes.
Cool.
Amazing.
Well, you're the editor.